Hey friends, hey family, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Crystal Blue. I do Christian content. I also do what's called the Word of the Day. I also have videos and shorts of me and my family having fun together. So if you like what you see and hear, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Happy Sunday. Hope you guys are doing well. For those of you returning, welcome back. So today we're going to talk about Gideon. I don't know if you guys remember Gideon from the book of Judges. Gideon was just a regular, normal person. He was an Israelite. They were being oppressed by the Midianites because they were, again, idolizing Baal and doing things they weren't supposed to do and not trusting God and not believing God. So God comes and sits under an oak tree and speaks to Gideon and tells him, hey, with my help, I'm going to help deliver the Israelites out of the hands of the Midianites. And Gideon's like, me? Why me? Are you sure? He's like, I'm absolutely sure. And in this story, Gideon, it's like he wants to believe God, but he's a little bit unsure. So today I want to talk about Gideon and his obedience and his faith. And because of his obedience and his faith, God got the glory out of what happened. So the overall story is Gideon is put in place to be this war hero to defeat the Midianites. But the thing is, it's not with as many troops as they expected to defeat the Midianites with. The Midianites, they have a huge army. They have thousands and thousands of troops. But before we get to that part, I want to talk about Gideon's obedience and his faith. And I also want to talk about his unbelief as well. In the beginning, he's not really sure if God wants him to go to war and like lead the war. And so it's not that he doesn't trust God, but he wants to be sure. So he asked God a few times. He said, okay, so if you really want me to do this, can you prove it to me by doing XYZ? So if you go to the book of Judges and in chapter 6, in verse 36, it says, Gideon said to God, if you will save Israel by my hand, as you have promised, look, it says, excuse me, Gideon said to God, if you will save Israel by my hand, as you have promised, look, I will place a wool fleece on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece and all the ground is dry, then I will know that you will save Israel by my hands, as you said. And that is to happen. Gideon rose early the next day. He squeezed the fleece and wrung out the dew into a bowl of water. Then Gideon said to God, do not be angry with me. Let me just make one more request. Allow me to test with the fleece, but this time make the fleece dry and the ground be covered with dew. That night God did so. Only the fleece was dry and all the ground was covered with dew. So I like how Gideon said, well, don't be mad, God, but I just want to make sure it's me that you want to do this, to take out the Midianites. And of course, the fleece was dry and there was dew on the ground. So that was it. Gideon, you are the chosen one. He called him the valiant warrior. He said, you are going to do this. So in chapter 7, it goes on. It said, early in the morning, Jerubbaal, and that was Gideon, and all his men camped out around the spring of Harod. The camp of the Midian was north of him in the valley near the north of Moreh. The Lord said to Gideon, you have too many men. I cannot deliver Midian into their hands, or Israel will boast against me. My own strength has saved me. Now announce to the army, anyone who trembles with fear may turn and leave and go back to Mount Gilead. So 20,000 men left, while 10,000 remain. But the Lord said to Gideon, there are still too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will thin them out for you. If I say, there is one who shall go with you, they shall go. But if I say, this one shall not go with you, he shall not. So Gideon took the men down to the water there so the Lord could see them, to see who separates the water with their hand and who laps it up with their tongues, like dogs. 300 of them drank from cupped hands, lapping like dogs. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that left, I will save you from the Midianites. 300 people. So they went from over 20 something thousand down to 300 people. And the Midianites have way more than that. So Gideon's like, are you serious right now? How are we supposed to defeat these people with only 300 guys? And so this is what happens. And I love this part of the story. As we go into verse 17 in chapter 7 of Judges, it says, watch me. He told them, follow my lead. When I get to the edge of the camp, do exactly as I do. When I and all who are with me blow your trumpets, then from all around the camp, blow yours and shout for the Lord and for Gideon. Gideon and the 100 men with him reached the edge of the camp at the beginning and the middle to watch just after they had changed the guard. They blew their trumpets and broke their jars in their hands. There were three companies, each of 100 people, blew their trumpets and smashed the jars, grasping their torches in their left hands and holding in their rights the trumpets. They blew and they shouted, a sword for the Lord and for Gideon. While each man held his position and around the camp, all the Midianites ran crying as they fled. So they defeated the Midianites with just 300 people by just making a lot of noise and crushing their jars of clay and blowing their trumpets. And I love the verse that says, for the Lord and for Gideon. Since Gideon had faith and was obedient, they were able to defeat the Midianites and deliver the Israelites from their hands, because the Israelites had been oppressed from the Midianites, if I hadn't mentioned that earlier. So I just want to talk about, being obedient and having faith in God. If you do this, everything will be for his glory. And that's why I call this Gideon's story of glory, his obedience and faith. If we're more like Gideon, then you'd be amazed at what you could do with God's help. They went from over 20,000 troops to just 300. That's it. And look what happened. They defeated this huge army. God can do the same thing in your life, but you have to be obedient and have faith. And he will choose you, little bitty old you who thinks you can't do anything. And guess what? God will get all the glory for it. But you've got to be obedient and have faith and trust him. So that's what I want to talk to you guys about today, the story of Gideon. There's definitely more to it because it's really in depth, but I just wanted to give you guys the gist. Hopefully you can go back and go read Judges, the book of Judges, when you have a chance, because it's a very, very entertaining story. So I hope you guys liked this one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it blessed you. And I hope that when you get a chance, you go back and go read the book of Judges. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.